Okay, I think we're just going to go ahead and just start this panel. Just wanted to just go over the fact that we're going to probably cover more of the athletes and specific ideas with regarding formats, competition, how it's portrayed to the public, athletes, sponsorship, and those kind of topics. So more of the nitty-gritty to do with the ground roots level of competitors and that side of the program. I'm just going to introduce myself first of all. I'm Anne Maxwell. My background was as a professional skydiver. I moved into working at Windoor and helped create and since then update the Wing Games. For the last couple of years I've been freelance, but I'm still the sporting director of the Wing Games. And yep, so I've got a bit of competition experience from both sides, and I'm going to just pass you over and introduce you to our panel. First of all, we have Patrice. I'm just going to ask him to reintroduce himself for the television.
I'm a sport professor working for the sport ministry, and I've been a world champion in outdoor skydiving, but I'm known as well as an organizer and a meet director for several first category events at the FI level.
Thank you. Lika?
I am skydiving for the last 20 years, and I have 11 years of base jumping experience, and I have quite a few years of experience working for television stations, including MTV channel in Russia, and that mostly reporting news and shows and producing live streams. And I've been involved in tunnel flying industry since 2011, working with coaches, working with sport market, with sport flyers, with sponsorships, and organizing competitions. I've been a part of dynamic flying group and developing the discipline with many of the people here as well. And I organized together with Domi a White Knight competition that was a dynamic four-way, dynamic two-way competition, and a Sakura Cup in 2018.
Thank you very much. Manu?
Manu, yes. I've got a background in parachuting with a couple of world medals. Then moved to indoor, organized the first French nationals, for instance, 2003. And then I'm not current in competition at all in terms of being an athlete, so I'll be here as more the operator side.
Thank you. Domi?
I'm Domi Kiger. I have also a skydiving background, a couple world titles in free flying, and then got heavily involved with the indoor aspects a few years ago with the birth of dynamic flying. And I think that's more in this regard that I'm hoping to share some insights about what we've been doing and how we could use what has happened to keep growing the sports in general.
Josh?
Josh O'Donoghue. I've been in the sport for about 12 years now. Been competing at a lot of competitions and judging a lot of competitions. Worked in various tunnels around the world, and also coach and train a lot of people. Been an athlete and an examiner for tunnel instructor. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks. Toms?
Yeah, hello, my name is Tom. I'm also athlete, and better feel myself when I'm flying, not talking. But yeah, I'm doing this for 4 years competing and 8 years in total flying and traveling around the world, maybe different kind of tunnels that most of the athletes, it's all open tunnels. So I have lots of, experience flying in big public events. And yeah, this is also something what I want to bring up here in this summit, and to share my vision of how far the competition can go and how much better it can be than it is now.
Thank you. I think you'll all agree we've got a really experienced panel. I think all of us can probably agree that one of our crucial pressure points at the moment is that we're now coming in about 7 years probably too late with this. 7 years ago, some of the competitions began, and what it was squeezing an outdoor format inside a tunnel. And probably if we'd all had the opportunity and just started from scratch with a blank paper, the formats that we see today may not have been the ones that we would have chosen back then. And I know that there are people on the panel who've got a lot of ideas about formats, and I'm going to immediately pass that over to Domi, because she looks like she's dying to jump in.
No, but I think that's interesting what you said about the concept of the blank page, and what I'm hoping to share with you with the history of dynamic flying is that even though most of the flyers that was involved with creating that concept, even though they were coming from a skydiving background, from a free flying background, they looked at exactly the type of environment that we were using in the wind tunnel, and it's this community who came up with the battle format. It's this community who really pushed the live stream, the fact that you can watch indoor skydiving in a way more easily way than you can watch skydiving, and trying to think out of the box and not put free flying in a box, which was the case for the very first FAI competition, and then eventually the dynamic community was approached to bring that in. And I think for me the key word in what we've been doing for the last 7 years is collective intelligence. I think it was Jay this morning who was saying that he felt like he was sitting with astronauts and people with brain and passion, and that's what we are. And even though what we do is slightly obscure to most people, and I think one of the main things that came up today was we are lacking an understandable format and concept to reach a broader audience. And that is very true. And maybe if you'd asked me 4 years ago, when everything we started creating with Dynamic was very fresh and we put a lot of heart and passion into it, I would have told you, like, oh no, I want to fight for Dynamic to be that thing, to be that fer de lance, the thing that's going to represent our sports. And I think maybe now, over the years, I'm maybe mitigating my opinion on that a little bit more, but what I really believe is that this huge use of collective intelligence, the fact that you can put people in the room, and when I say in a room, I mean in a tunnel, because it's well and all to talk about flying in a room like this, but if you can do this in a place, you can also have a break, go fly, try an idea that works, that doesn't work. That's how Dynamic was created, by Tunnel supporting us, and first of all was Bottrop, and Voss with the Nordic meet, but those Tunnel really helping, giving time to athletes, and that means a little bit of money for sure, but creating that space where this discussion can be created, those formats can be tested, and using this collective intelligence to create something new, I think that's what we need. And what everybody was saying today, like, what is it going to be, what format? Nobody really have an answer, but everybody agrees that we need something. Then I believe that what we need is for Tunnel to support the people who are passionate and are living, breathing, sleeping, flying, also as, like we have here, bringing people from other sports, from other perspective, the media perspective, put those people in a tunnel and let them create something.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all can agree that you know, tunnel flying, well, it's beautiful to watch, and it's a very expensive sport. And, you know, right now, the people who are actually on the ground doing a lot of the work in this are the people who really are putting not just their own time, but their money, they're seeking sponsorship. And so I think we're putting an awful lot of the emphasis on the athletes and people on the ground to create these formats, try them out, and then it seems to me that people are waiting until they have a perfect format before they then want to show it. But finding the perfect format doesn't happen in one go. It's a process. It takes time, it takes investment, it takes people who are passionate to have the desire to continue that process, because sometimes it takes years. And right now, there's always a crunch point between how much time and how much money individuals can pour into that. You know, creating this perfect format, how do we do that? What is the process to achieve that?
Okay, can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I've been competing for 4 years, and since then I face some problems that all the competitors are facing. It is very expensive. It is not interesting to watch for even for relatives. They ask me when I compete, when you're gonna compete, which minute we're gonna turn it on, and then we're gonna turn it off because it's too long. It's 3 days, and it's just like no normal person gonna watch it. So that is the big problems, I think, 2 big problems. So, and I think the solution for that would be making the competition not 3 days, but maximum 3 hours. So also to make it more watchable, so we don't repeat the things what we do there, but make it more live. So as Dynamic did with the battle, so it's more like a fight that you can see who wins, and it's a live judging. So it doesn't mean that the judges go away and then make some miracle scores and then give it to the competitors, but it's live judging with very experienced judges. And yeah, and in the best scenario, what I imagine, it could be the competition somewhere in a New York center, in a Times Square, in a big open tunnel, and there is like one USA one. It's something like a breakdance, what is already happening with the Red Bull BC1. So it would be one USA one, going like from 20 best athletes in the world to the top one. So it gives for the athlete the opportunity to be like a rock star. Because now, like athlete, to prepare for the competition, you spend the same amount of money, like you can choose to buy a car or to be in a competition. So you choose to be in a competition. If you become, if you don't go on a podium, like no one even know who you are. So basically you spend lots of money, but you don't achieve, like maybe 10 people know about you. So I think that would give the opportunity for young kids to say, whoa, I want to do this, like I want to be part of this, like something like, I don't know, have you seen the movie where Inca was taking part, Alita? And those who have seen, they had this something like Super Bowl, and like every kid who is watching it, they want to be that, because in that like game, you can have like something like superpowers. And I think that is something what Tunnel offers, something like super good superpowers, and it's like the future sport. It's and if we can put it somewhere like in a Times Square and show that kids that you can be that in that place, you can be that rock star. The tunnels would be full with the people willing to also spend that big amount of money to be part of it. Like right now, it's hard to find the people who want to be part of it, because even if you come to the competition, like it's, yeah.
I mean, I think we can all agree that there's the wow factor, there's the show, but it's finding the correct way to present that to the public, I think, is still not 100% figured out. And it looks like, Manu, that I can know that you have a couple of ideas about formats, and I wondered if you would like to share those.
Well, frankly, I'm a bit embarrassed because actually it's the 4th discussion we have in competition, so I'm afraid we're going in circles. I would like not to be too redundant, but a couple of things that have been said before, like I really like what Raindert said, and it really resonated. I'm more thinking about growing the sport. How do we grow this sport? I will take it from this. So if the audience, and I think that's something that's been said several times, if the audience is key, then the viewer should be the king. And we should broadcast what the viewers want. So just a part about spectators and viewers. Why not spectators? It's been mentioned in previous discussion about having an arena, something like this. I'm not a true believer of that. I think we should not put constraints on ourselves at this stage, because maybe we're not aiming at World Cup, maybe we're not aiming at the Olympics. I was supportive at the Olympics. It happened in my tunnel that we did this experiment still. Maybe we have to go through a very private format that could be like UFC. Do you have thousands of spectators around the octagon when they fight? I'm not sure. Do you have thousands of spectators around snooker games? They don't. They might not have, we don't know. So it's not needed, that's what I mean. If you want viewers, we should first address the viewers, that's my point. So why do people look at competitions? I think it's about drama and art. These are 2 key factors. And for long, we have thought of competitions, and I've been a competitor, I've been around that, as a way to evaluate our skills, because we are competitors, and we want to have rules to support that fair evaluation. So we're thinking with a competitor's brain or judge's brain, because we are insiders of the sport. But that's the competitor's point of view. Let's reverse it and look at it from the viewer's point of view. I think they're looking for excitement, failures. These things have been said today. That's about the drama part. And they're also looking about mastery and unique imagery. And that's about the art, the artistic. And they also appreciate, this has been said, to be able to build their own opinion when given a chance. So regarding drama, we have worked, we've improved. So several aspects like live judgment, instant death matches, these are things that increase the drama. But there is no excitement if there is no comprehension. And it's been said repeatedly that whoever is not an insider looks at it, gets bored after 5 minutes, despite all what we do. Because it's been built by competitors for competitors. As for the art, we have a beautiful show, but with a unique angle of vision and a unique speed. So where are the drones? Where is the slow motion? Where are the multiple cameras for multiple angles of filming?
I think every competition recently.
Yeah,
there's been improvements, but I think we can go maybe further and really change the focus. That's my point. I don't want to be too harsh. I know lots of different competitors. Windoor has been great at improvement. So the dynamic brought a lot of new things. We saw wind dynamics in experimenting the live judgments, many things. But we're not there yet. We just have to face it. We're not there yet. We have to do something that people would understand from instinct and just adhere to it. We have to learn from climbing. And there was a strong resistance from competitors in climbing because we were changing their rules. With the new formats, all climbers I knew were unhappy with the new formats. But actually, by looking at it from another side, they gain so much more audience and traction, and then participants and actually more competitors because they agree to just look at it from another point of view.
Domi, you look like you were, you had something to point out with regard to things like the slow motion and the production values. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, I agree with Manu that there is massive room for improvement, and I think the last 7 years have shown improvement, and we're definitely not there yet. I think showing contempt for what's already been done and for the people who are actually making the sports live is not going to really help. We need to work together. We need to realize our own shortcoming and how we can improve. And I believe this is by using this community and integrating people from outside of our sports as well. And I think that's what's been great here. I've been really loving listening to you, Renard, about the climbing history. And I actually discovered that the process for the new rules to be created was basically all the federations, but also apparently something the Athletes Commission, which is something maybe we should look into creating. When you said it's what we do right now is made from the athlete by the athlete, it's actually the motto of dynamic flying, for the flyer by the flyer, and I agree that we need to go beyond that, but going beyond this doesn't mean negating that source of people who are really knowing what they're talking about. So instead of antagonizing and talking down, I think we should think about uniting and maybe putting all the right people around the table, respecting each other and trying to push forward together.
Okay, I agree with that. Fair enough. But I was just saying, let's change the perspective for the objective.
Just picking up on that idea of community, I know that Lika had, I know that was something that you wanted to speak about.
Yeah, we had this conversation with basically every person on this panel before, and Anne said that there is skydiving and indoor skydiving is like a different thing, and there is more and more competitors who don't skydive. It's the kids and those who just compete in the tunnel. But I feel that one of the things that indoor skydiving inherited from skydiving as well is the community. It's a very, very special thing, and people know each other, competitors know each other, and they like to spend time together, and they like to create things together, and this is something that makes skydiving and indoor skydiving very appealing, because it's not just going to the gym by yourself or something like this. It's being a part of the group, and so far it's been working really, really good as creating that collective intelligence that Domi is talking about, and where even the best in the sport, they're very approachable, and you can talk to them, you can fly with them, you can spend time together, you can become friends. And if we scale that up, like, are we gonna lose that community thing, or can we find a way to build on that? Because like Thomas was telling about BC1, like I actually been on one of these competitions. It's a breakdancing event, and it also brings together the breakdancers from the entire world. But it's not just dancing; it's the whole culture, and it includes a lot of music, it includes graffiti, it includes lifestyle, and like a lot of different things.
Yeah. It's you know, it's like surfing and skateboarding. It's a lifestyle, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, just I think it was brought up on another panel, and I think it might have been Wayne from iFLY that might have mentioned it. And it was this question, it was this suggestion that the sociability side, you know, a lot of people in skydiving stay in skydiving because they find a community, and you know, I think you can walk into any tunnel and you know immediately whether that community exists or it doesn't by the feeling in the tunnel. And I think that tunnels that have a larger pro-flyer community, that immediately, I think, is obvious. So people come in and they start to see that aspect. It's like going to a drop zone, and some drop zones are definitely tandem factories. And others, there are people there who stay there, they come all the time. And I think that this kind of goes back to the grassroots level. How much investment is this tunnel putting into their flyers? Why do the flyers want to hang around? Why do they want to stay together? Why do they want to fly together? And I think that this community and sociable aspect doesn't just happen. It happens because maybe the tunnel cares about the sport side of the competition, or they care about the sport side of the flying, as well as obviously, you know, they have to care about the business side of it at the same time. So I think that it goes hand in hand together, and this ability to make your tunnel a sociable place means it's because people want to hang around there, and you know, that seems pretty obvious. I mean, this will lead us into talking about the athletes, you know, the people who are at the very grassroots level, of people who are investing in the sport. You know, for me, my philosophy is that you can't have a production without the athletes. You know, you can have a competition without the production, but you can't have a production without the competition. And so the athletes really are some of the most important people if you want to have a competition. So what makes them interested? How do you get your athletes? Because we all know it's an expensive sport. So I'm going to ask Josh to just, you know, talk a little bit about, from his perspective, you know, as somebody who's put a lot of his time and effort into competing at a high level.
Yeah, well, the only way that I've managed to compete for this long and to stay with it is because I've been supported by tunnels like Windoor, like Body Flight, Paul there, and in Prague. If I wasn't working in the industry, then I never would have been able to achieve what I have achieved. And I think that's all down to accessibility to the public. Because the public, they do have access to all of these tunnels, but for them to get to a level like Tom's and myself to compete in all of these competitions, it's extremely expensive, and it takes a lot of hours, and I think people need to find a way to make it more accessible to them.
So, can I say, it's super hard to find the sponsors. Most of the time, when I go to the sponsors, someone I'm trying to tell about this sport, they say, yeah, it's good, like I can give you money, but I don't see that gonna be valuable for me, because it's more like there's a very small part of people who are actually interested in this sport. So, but the answer for this, I think, could be that that open tunnel in New York, Times Square. Because
Please, somebody build this tunnel for this guy.
Then you can put the sponsor's name on the tunnel or in the brakes or somewhere, and it's gonna be visible for so many people. Like not only on TV, because again it's gonna be small, but in a live place. And I think that could be the answer when I'm gonna go next time for the sponsor. I can tell them like, okay, I will be the best, and your name is gonna be like in the New York in the Times Square. So I don't know. I think that could be the answer.
Yeah, like I think.
One of sponsored athletes, Kyra, who was here for the Wind Games, I believe that we have a video that she made, and since it's about her sponsorship, I think we've just kind of segged into this very nicely.
So last year I got chosen to become a Red Bull athlete. We've been talking with them for quite a while, and finally it happened. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity because I mean it's Red Bull and they do sponsor one of the best athletes in the world. So I feel entirely grateful that I have this opportunity, and yeah, I'm just really happy. I honestly have no idea why Red Bull picked me. I mean, of course, we have to have a level of flying. So maybe I have been competing for a number of years, and I've been doing pretty well in the competitions. But I also think as a Red Bull athlete, it's not only about winning medals, but it's about what kind of athlete you are. So during competitions, whether you're supporting other people, whether you're cheering other teams on and being a good sports person and just having fun with everybody, I think that having the spirit of the sport, and as an indoor skydiving competitor, you just have to always be happy and positive. And yeah, it's not all about winning, but maybe sometimes, but it's about loving the sport and loving the people in it as well. So hopefully more people will be in the Red Bull community for indoor skydiving, because now it's only me and Maya. Hopefully we have other teams like Dynamic, and yeah, I'm excited to see how the sport grows. Yeah, so last year we did a project, me and Maya, in Abu Dhabi in the later part of the year, and it was amazing. We actually did the opening ceremony for the largest tunnel in the world. It's a 32-footer in Abu Dhabi, and I was insanely grateful for the opportunity. I mean, for us to build a 32-footer, I think we're really taking the sport to new heights, and I can't wait to see what it's installed, but I think that this would really bring the sport to new levels, and especially the competition scene as well. I've been in this sport for around 9 years, and I've been competing since 2012. When I first started, this sport was entirely different. Like, there was much less people, and the competition scene was different, and I think that I'm really happy about how this sport has evolved, like the number of people that I've mixed with. Like, there's people all over the world that we call family, so I'm really grateful for that. And I think that the competition scene has grown bigger and bigger, and the disciplines that we have has changed, and we have new categories and everything, and I really think that the sport is going in a good direction, and I hope it continues. So I started because of a mistake. My mom was helping iFLY Singapore do their advertisements, and they needed people to just come down and fly. So I was just one in like maybe 200 people that tried. But then I continued, and then I figured out that you could compete, and that's when I realized I really love this sport, and I want to continue. And 9 years later, I've been flying for like half my life, and I'm here traveling around the world, having amazing opportunities, which I'm really grateful for. And yeah, I just hope that I can stay in this sport for as long as possible and see it grow and have more people come into the sport, but especially keep this spirit of our community being so close and so supportive. So I think, like everybody else in the sport, when we heard that the 2024 didn't happen in Paris, I think all of us were really disappointed and upset. But I think that it might also be a good step for the sport. Like, we can reevaluate our competition styles and how we judge as well, and fine-tune the way we judge the different disciplines. And hopefully it can be in the Olympics in the later part of the years. But I think for now, the way the sport is growing and all the different opportunities and projects that I've seen everyone doing is in a good direction, and let's just hope for the best. I mean, we can all dream for it to be in the Los Angeles 2028. Hopefully it will happen. Nobody knows, but we're all keeping our fingers crossed. And if it doesn't, we just have to continue pushing our sport, getting everyone to know about it, and just continue flying and do it because we love it. Whether it's in the Olympics or not, we're still going to have the World Cup, the World Championships, the Wing Games. So that's something to focus on. But if it does become in the Olympics, which is everybody's dream, I think that would be an amazing opportunity. For me to give interviews, I mean, of course, at the start when we started out as children, we were like, me and my partner, we were just 9 years old, and we didn't know how to talk to the camera at all, and probably we were saying nonsense. But I think after a while, being in the sport, having media and everything, we have to also present our sport in the way we want it to grow and in the right way and manner. So I think that it comes as like practice, but we don't want to say the wrong thing, but just to put our sport out to the media and to everyone around, because social media is really important. And it does help our sport grow. Like if you see the Win Games, when the video went viral, it actually helped our sport grow a lot. So I think that it's a skill that maybe not all the time I want to do it, but yeah, it's good. I don't use Facebook. I use mostly Instagram. I just hit 10,000 followers. So yeah, but I'm still growing. I'm still trying to learn how to be better on social media, but also not to forget and get messed up with all about social media stuff, and just be serious during the competition and know what I have to do and not get distracted by all of the media and everything, just to focus and fly because I want to fly.
I think that Kyra is a perfect example of a really professional indoor athlete. She cares about her sponsors, and in addition to Red Bull, she picked up sponsorship as one of the faces for tourism in Singapore. Last year, her and her teammate, Yishuan, these guys, the girls rather, they were the junior sports team of the year in Singapore last year. And that's a really big achievement, because they've achieved a level of recognition, not just inside our community, but in the sporting community as a whole. I think it's important that we do have faces. I think every sport always has recognizable faces. And I think that, there's a little bit, this idea of elite competitors, but every sport has world champions. Every sport have recognizable people, and it's a way for the public to relate to them. They all have their stories. It's a way to provide a face to a sport and make it more recognizable. And then that can filter down. When you walk into a tunnel and you want to start learning to fly, what inspires you to fly in that tunnel? Very often it's seeing other people fly and you want to fly like they do. They don't have to be world champions, but in order to encourage them to take that first-time flight and maybe want to do some more, they want to be able to see somebody who is doing something that they'd like to do as well. So that depth of competition can go all the way from the bottom to the top, but you still have to have those people in the tunnel who are flying. And at that level, if you're not competing for your nation, or you're not competing and winning, how do you afford that? I mean, right now, the athletes, they're paying for all of that themselves. So how do we help at that level, or where is this sponsorship going to come from? Because right now, from a commercial perspective, it's difficult, to explain why somebody who is in a business, why are they going to put some money into this? Josh.
I know that pushing into the Olympics would possibly be a great thing for our sport, but if you look at other sports like boxing, for example, and things like this, no one really watches boxing in the Olympics. All of the boxing that everyone watches is what everyone knows, And that started because companies got together and they put a lot of money into it, and then they made it big, and they showed the world what it is. And I think if we could do that, if we could put together a project or put together a portfolio or a team of people just to go out there to these huge companies and say, look, this is our sport, this is what we have. We would like to make this grow. What do you think?
Well, in a dream scenario, I mean, Domi, what would you like to see happen this year? This year, next year? How do you think we could go forward?
Well, I think mostly right now what we have to admit is that we are in the very infancy of our sports. And it can be very frustrating sometimes. We're definitely not as far as we want to be, but that's also very exciting. And it's not up to one individual to make a decision. I think it's very much up to groups of people and different interests and different aspects of the sports to get together. I think we all agree that the bigger the sports become, the better it will be for the athletes, the better it will be for the businesses. I have the double hat of opening a tunnel soon, and for sure, for me, the most it is known as a sports, the better it will be for me as well, no matter where the events are opening or what's going on this regard. So I think if we start within the community of supporting the sports more, and I think Simon said it very well this morning, that like we need to create heroes, we need to push the sports because we need to turn those lovely first-timers into return flyers. That's in everybody's interest. And for this, sports is really a gateway, so we need to put our brains together and come up with a better format than we have now, come up with something that is understandable, sexy, attractive, and just keep pushing. We cannot just stay where we are now.
I mean, we all know what the UFC's done with their event. I mean, Patrice, what do you think about that? Do you think that we could take a leaf out of the book of the UFC and, put together a series, perhaps, of our own?
Well, before the UFC, there is other sports who are doing that. I think so. I mean, on the organizer perspective, I'm coming from the outdoor, and I was involved in the last World Championship. This is not really complicated to organize, honestly. Taking out of the boxes, which are the competition themselves, for example, the dynamic, and after that the formation skydiving, the setup of an organization is not really complicated. I mean, it's easier to organize indoor rather than outdoor. You are not under the dictature of weather guard or whatever, or engine failure with an aircraft. On the other way, on an airfield, you can have spectators, and we can't. Real spectators, not the cousin, the girlfriend, the neighbor, and all that. We know that. Around a tunnel, even if they are big, you still have the family, the community. How can you go outside? The only way to go outside is what you are doing. It's to broadcast and to have a TV production. Who creates the drama? The format itself creates the drama, for example, the battles, but the media coverage as well. Because if you have a good TV production, then you can make slow motion. And when you are watching a competition in live, this is only one shot. If you have missed, for example, the point, then what are you doing? You turn and you see the screen, and you see the results, and you see the slow motion. In the UFC, exactly what it's working. I have seen. Well, I don't sleep too much, and every night I follow the UFC. I don't remember, probably Wayne knows exactly where we are, 350 or 400, whatever, with all the same. The commentators, they are famous as well, and well, you never, probably, sometimes you miss the point. You miss when they hit the other, and then you have the playback, you have the faces and all that. We need that. Are we ready to do that? Yes, it's easier internal, but we miss the spectators. I have seen some UFC issue with 10,000. No, I'm not joking. Well, you know better than it. 10,000 spectators around. Ticketing, market. They drink their beer around. They socialize and all that. So we need that. So the concept, and I'm very glad that you say we have to go somewhere. And well, it's not off record. These people, those young people, we need them because they are very powerful and they are still passionate, and we need that in our sport, of course. You have to think about your format. You have to think about your rules, and you will always find organizers as us to make it happen. Just because when you say a short one, it's what the next generation they want. I have some kids. If it's more than 3 hours, they go away. They are doing something else. And that's true, that's the reality. A short one, understandable, and this is probably one of your problems, to be understandable and instantly. If what you are doing is not understandable, everybody will always understand that the race is won by somebody, or there is a winner, or there is a loser. So it's just a message addressed. But if the competition itself is short, well, it's easy to organize. I mean, it could be organized with other competition. There is one point. We are talking about show. There is a border that, in my opinion, we have not to sell, to go away, and we have not to sell our values. In the past, I have seen a lot of time competitors, athletes, outdoor, indoor, whatever, they take a fencing suit, they take a soccer suit, and they play soccer in the air, or they play tennis in the air, or they play something else in the wind tunnel, just to show that it's possible to bring the sport. In my opinion, we give the signal that we are not able to exist by ourselves. And for example, when Roland and other people, they were involved in Seoul by building these incredible Olympics rings in freefall. After that, nothing happened, because the signal we sent, it's we are able to do that, so we are showmen and we are stuntmen. And for me, it's the border not to be, we have to deal with that, not to sell our values. You have to sell what you are able to do. And what you are doing in the tunnel, it's incredible by itself. It's not necessary to put a red nose here and to look like somebody else. You understand what I mean? So I just want to address you that.
So the difference between a show and a sport?
Of course. Because a show, I mean, you really are touching the spectators to make them laugh and so on. Doesn't mean that on the side of the competition, we have not to make some show. But mixing both, well, it is just my personal feeling that we may lose our values.
So Josh?
I think we already have what we need as a sport in terms of what we're doing. Like, we have the solo speed races, where you go in, you perform a routine, and you get out and you see the time instantly, and then someone does the same thing, and then you can instantly see if that person's slower or faster. And then you have the solo freestyle with music now, and people connect with that, and just because they can see something wow and they can connect with the music and everything's timed and things like this, maybe they don't quite understand how they're flying in the tunnel, but for them it's wow. But then we've got the problem with it's not being shown to all of these people, so it's not. I can't switch on my TV at home and go, oh, indoor skydiving. I have to go online and I have to look at the right webpage and things like this. Whereas Tom's is a great idea of you stick a tunnel that's easy to build in a place where there's millions of people walking around all the time. And then you put that concept of the time and the solo freestyle and everything like this. And then you've got everything. We already have it, I think. We just need to do it.
I mean, in the new tunnel in Barcelona, it's in the football stadium. It's going to have footfalls on a Saturday of 70,000 people walking straight past the glass tube of the tunnel. And it would be interesting to see whether or not, that they're interested in stopping and seeing what they're looking at. Because suddenly there will be the spectator audience. I mean, we've talked a lot about generalities of how we'd like things to go, but practically speaking, how do we get there? How do we take all these great ideas and, a lot of really experienced people? We're all coming from very different places, and we're still operating a little bit from, oh, that's not my technology, or that's not my team, or that's not my tunnel. How do we bring it all together? I mean, we're starting here at this summit, which is a great point to move forward from. But how do we set aside our differences, and how do we come together with the things that we have in common? Because I think all of us have this great desire to see our sport move forward. But how do we make that work?
I see you talk about money. Tom, Jonathan do the same.
Josh.
Josh. We should maybe think of stopping chicken and egg, because we need money to have a better audience and other audience to get more money. So where do we start? Yeah. Maybe with the same thing I suggested earlier, is what about we get our own governing body and work together? Because you're talking community, and that's very great, and I think that's what you've succeeded in doing, but now it needs to get everyone involved, and everyone responsible for the future of our sport. I think what Roland is doing here by putting us together is the first stage of putting that together. But we need that organization. It cannot just be on the shoulders of some people willing to do something and then dying because they feel alone.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't mean that all business industries here will agree at once on how much they should put and what they should go to. And then it should not just be wasted money. We have to learn from people who had a success in doing that. So I think we had a very good example and lessons to take from ISC, for example, for the climbing. They did it. How did they do it? What was their mental process? And I had some discussions with Render today, and I suggest we take more discussions with such people with so valuable learnings we could take for ourselves, because they've already gone through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see a lot of people nodding heads there. Domi, what would you like to say about that?
No, I completely agree. I think it's been done in other sports, and we're struggling at the moment, so we should open up ourselves to the lessons of those who came before us and try to make it happen.
Lika, I could see you nodding your head too.
Just listening, I absolutely agree with everybody, and I think it's very important to communicate this idea of a collective effort. So this community, which is quite big at the moment, but not as big, does not separate into us competitors and them who are making the rules, but still stays as one unit who works on it together, and we all creating the rules, we're all trying to make it nicer, we're all trying to make it more self-explanatory so the audience can understand and can understand and can follow what's happening. So this idea of community needs to be communicated.
I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about this phrase, collective intelligence. You know, I think the one thing we don't lack as a community is intelligence, but I think one of the things we do lack is cohesion. And, it seems to me that over and over we're reinventing the wheel every time, whereas in reality, we have the expertise. We're just not bringing it together, and this, I think that it's a platform from the ground up, and it's from and outwards as well. We have some people whose skill set is from flying, and they can input that. There are other people from the organizational perspective, and helping create formats and rules, and I think that if we could bring this community together, and we start to do that, then we can then take that information and pass it down and give it to tunnels where they could put it into smaller formats and practice in littler formats in their own tunnels rather than just having these big production events. I mean, if we could take some of the formats and make them achievable in just an evening in a tunnel in 1 hour with just your local community, then this way we don't just keep the information for big events, but we spread it out and make it available to everybody. Toms, what do you think?
I am thinking now about this game Simon said, because everyone says this, but Simon said very good things, and that's why everyone says that. So what I was thinking that when I was doing some camps in US, most kids that I was coaching was telling me they came, they wanted to become more better athletes after their instructor said after first flight that you were really good, and but there is a kids club and maybe you want to join it. So and after that they kind of get hooked up and they start to do it. So I think there is some things that every tunnel is doing really good, and I think every tunnel, not only iFLYs, could do, and that like little things can bring that sport more and more up. Yeah.
Domi.
Somebody was mentioning technology and how we use it, and I know at the moment as we speak there's people working on integrating some kind of VR game, like you can, as you're flying, like follow a little hummingbird or touch some bricks, like all this, and like that's not virtual reality, it's extended reality. So you see what augmented reality. So yeah, there's a lot of people putting their brains in creating new stuff, and we're only seeing the beginning of those. And I think that's also probably going to open doors on how we can make our sports more understandable and more exciting for a broader audience.
And you know, we don't need to begin from the beginning. There's lots of other sports that have already showed us and leading the way on that. You know, we can pick up from, you know, a lot of information from them, and we can just use that to kind of cut short that process. Patrice, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that the idea has been already said here. I mean, we have the opportunity to create tournament. We have the opportunity to create a league system. Whatever you put inside, like you said, the product itself is you are satisfied with the speed. You are satisfied with the freestyle music. But what we need now is to improve a little bit. Well, I've never seen a competition, a tunnel against another tunnel. You don't need any body over your head just to make this kind of competition. For example, a tunnel from Spain is doing a competition against a tunnel from France, for example, which is always happening in soccer.
The Global Kids Challenge does that.
Sorry?
The Global Kids Challenge does that.
Okay, that's a goal could be reached also with the seniors as well. And it's open to create also, not formats, but a kind of competition which satisfy intermediate levels, and that's it. Well, I'm not an operator, I'm not a businessman right now, but honestly, to organize that is not so complicated. The set of rules are maybe a little bit stronger right now, but they could be revisited for this kind of competition, and we don't need always to reach the top level competition on the top, which is only one time. As you said, it's not consistent and we need more, but why not trying to do something like that? It's a matter of operator, in my opinion.
I mean, even virtual events, you know, you can create one event and then other tunnels around the world can do the same event at the same time. And suddenly, the effort that goes into one event can be used by a lot of different people, and all of them competing at the same time and pooling their resources. Lika, what do you think?
Yeah, good. I think I was just thinking about the Global Kids Challenge.
The IBA Global Kids Challenge.
Yeah, because I seen some entries to that competition, and like some of the videos, they just like good enough for a judge to have a look and like assign some like difficulty score and this and that, but they're like not good to put online or show to the audience, and that's like a very, very big part of the problem. I remember in 2015 when we were doing a live stream for a dynamic competition for White Nights, we had like a very, very professional crew, and we were just brainstorming what can we bring into that live stream to make it more interesting. And ever since, it just gets better and better. And now in Win Games, you had like very, very nice live stream with slow motion repeats and with like green screen, like newsroom reporting and all these new nice features, and also like showing the results. And there is a lot of room for improvement, and you just need to build on what we already have. And one more remark that I had, it was a lot of talking about UFC, and like in my point of view, UFC is kind of self-explanatory. So like guy is down, he lost, no, kind of. But then there is some sports, for example, figure skating. Like, I don't think many people know the rules or know the judging criteria for it, but a lot of people watch it because it's very nicely presented. It's nice music, it's filmed nicely, they wear nice costumes and all. Yeah, it's not about the costumes.
You can all look at a performance and see whether you have a connection with it or not.
Yeah, you kind of understand what it is. You kind of understand that this thing is really difficult and this thing is like a very nicely choreographed, and this thing is something else.
I just want to be really respectful because we have another panel coming up after this. I don't know if we have any time for questions. Roland, do we have time?
I really think we should.
Okay, yeah.
Which is no.
What I said before, if someone has a question, like please mail it to us, put it in the YouTube chat, whatever. We will get it out to you. Promise.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for your views and your
Thank
expertise, and that was a great panel. Thanks.
Thank you.
Patrice.